There are some aircraft that disappear quietly, and then there are aircraft that refuse to die. The F-14 Tomcat belongs to the second category. And yes, I know how crazy this sounds in 2026, but the F-14 Tomcat might actually fly over American skies again. Not in a Hollywood movie, not as a static museum shell, but as a real, living, breathing jet. And the reason this is even possible has very little to do with nostalgia and everything to do with military history, geopolitics, and one very specific piece of legislation, the Maverick Act. Let's start at the beginning. The F-14 Tomcat was never just another fighter. It was the Cold War's ultimate fleet defender. Designed in the 1960s and entering service in 1972, its sole purpose was to protect American carriers from massed Soviet bomber and anti-ship missile attacks. That mission gave us one of the most distinctive and capable aircraft ever built. The powerful AWG-9 radar and the long-range AIM-504 Phoenix missile system, capable of engaging multiple targets over 100 miles away. The iconic variable sweep swing wings for excellent low-speed carrier handling and high-speed interception. A two-man crew, pilot and radar intercept officer. Massive twin engines, later the reliable GE F-110s in the D model. At its peak, a single Tomcat could track 24 targets and simultaneously attack 6 of them with Phoenix missiles. It was the outer shield for the carrier strike group. But that capability came at a steep price. The Tomcat was notoriously maintenance-heavy. It demanded enormous manpower, huge logistical support, and constant attention. By the early 2000s, the Navy had a more practical alternative, the FA-18E and F Super Hornet. So, after 32 years of distinguished service, including combat in the Gulf War, Balkans, and Iraq, the Navy retired the last F-14 in September 2006. Most people assumed that was the end. But here's where the story gets unusual. Unlike almost every other U.S. retired fighter, the Tomcat remained under extremely tight controls. The reason? Iran. Before the 1979 Islamic Revolution, the U.S. sold Iran 79 F-14As. After the revolution, Iran became an adversary, yet somehow kept those Tomcats flying for decades despite sanctions and lack of support. Because of that, the US government went to great lengths to prevent any parts or technology from reaching them. Many retired Tomcats were deliberately shredded. Spare parts were destroyed. The aircraft became one of the most restricted airframes in existence. That made the idea of a privately flown or even museum-restored American F-14 seem impossible for nearly 20 years, until now. The Maverick Act, named after Tom Cruise's iconic character, is changing that. The legislation, S-4162 in the Senate, companion H.R. 8331 in the House, was introduced by Senator Tim Sheehy, M.T., a Republican, Naval Academy graduate and former Navy SEAL, and co-sponsored by Senator Mark Kelly, D.A.Z., a retired naval aviator and astronaut. In the House, it was introduced by Rep. Abe Hamadeh, A.Z., an Army veteran. The bill passed the Senate by unanimous consent on April 28, 2026, and is as of today now under consideration in the House. Here's exactly what it does. It authorizes the Navy to transfer 3 specific F-14D Tomcats currently stored at Davis-Monthan Air Force Base, Boneyard, Arizona, Bureau numbers 164341, 164602, and 159437 to the U.S. Space and Rocket Center in Huntsville, Alabama. The transfer must be at no cost to the taxpayer. The museum or its partners will bear all expenses for transportation, restoration, maintenance, and operation. Key strict conditions in the bill. The aircraft must be fully demilitarized. No weapons, no combat systems, no munitions capability. The Navy will provide excess spare parts from existing stock, no new procurement, sufficient to make one of the 3 aircraft potentially flyable or suitable for high-quality static display. The museum must comply with all FAA regulations for any flight operations. The Navy can immediately repossess the aircraft if any terms are violated. The jets can be used for public display, air shows, and naval aviation heritage events, and the museum may partner with nonprofits for restoration. This is an extremely narrow exception to the long-standing restrictions, but it is the first real legal opening in 2 decades. Even if the Maverick Act becomes law, the road back to flight is incredibly difficult. These are F-14Ds, the most advanced variant, with digital avionics, better radar, and the more reliable F-110 engines. But they have sat in the harsh Arizona desert for nearly 20 years. Structural fatigue, corrosion in hydraulics and wiring, and degradation of the complex swing-wing mechanism are all major concerns. Restoring a supersonic naval interceptor to airworthy condition is orders of magnitude harder than a World War II P-51. Every system needs deep inspection and likely recertification by the FAA. Then there are the operating costs. The F-14 carries about 2,280 gallons of jet fuel internally. At current prices, a single full internal tank costs roughly $14,500. Add external tanks, another 534 gallons, and high-performance airshow routines, and fuel burn becomes eye-watering. Factor in insurance, pilot currency training, custom parts manufacturing, and a full maintenance crew, and you're looking at institutional-level expenses. Very few pilots today have current F-14 qualifications. The jet demands respect. It is powerful, but also unforgiving in certain regimes. That said, the private warbird community has achieved impossible things lately. MiG-29s, MiG-23s, and even a Tornado F-2 are either flying or returning to flight in civilian hands. Billionaire Jared Isaacman, for example, is actively restoring a Tornado. These examples prove that with enough money, engineering expertise, and passion, it can be done. Recent developments in Iran may have finally removed the last major strategic objection. U.S. and Israeli strikes in early 2026 appear to have ended the IRAF's remaining Tomcat operations for good. So, where does this leave us? Even if the bill passes the House and is signed into law, don't expect an F-14 screaming overhead at next month's air show. The technical, regulatory, and financial hurdles remain enormous. But for the first time since 2006, there is a legitimate legal pathway for at least one American Tomcat to potentially fly again, not as a fighter, but as a living piece of naval aviation heritage. The F-14 was built for a war that no longer exists. Its original strategic purpose is gone. Yet the aircraft itself has endured as a symbol of American engineering ambition, Cold War resolve, and raw aerial charisma. Thanks to the Maverick Act, America may not be finished with the Tomcat just yet. And that is pretty damn cool.